There is a law working against you right now, silently, invisibly, and with terrifying precision. Not a law of physics, not a law of economics, a law of human nature so uncomfortable that most people will dismiss it the moment they hear it. And that dismissal, that is exactly what the law predicted. Carlo Cipolla was an economic historian who spent decades watching civilizations rise and fall. He wasn't a self-help guru. He wasn't a motivational speaker. He was a quiet, serious man with a sharp mind and an even sharper sense of irony. And after a lifetime of studying why intelligent societies collapse from within, he arrived at 5 brutal laws about human stupidity. 4 of them are unsettling, but the fourth one is the one nobody wants to truly look at, because it doesn't point at the idiots around you. It points directly at you. Let's begin. Most people, when they hear the word stupid, immediately think of someone else. The co-worker who sends emails that make no sense, the politician who seems to act against the very people who elected him, the driver who cuts you off and then waves like he did you a favor. We have an almost instinctive reflex to locate stupidity outside of ourselves, to scan the horizon for fools while standing perfectly still, confident in our own intelligence. Cipolla knew this. He counted on it. And it is precisely why his 4th law lands like a cold blade. The 4th law states, non-stupid people always underestimate the damaging power of stupid individuals. Read that again, slowly. Not just that stupid people cause damage. We already know that. The law says that you, the presumably intelligent, self-aware, reasonable person watching this right now, will consistently, predictably, and almost inevitably underestimate how much harm a stupid person can cause in your life, your organization, your society. You will be surprised every single time, and your surprise is not a sign of your intelligence. It is the proof of your blindness. But here is what makes this so much deeper than a simple warning about foolish people. The 4th law is not really about stupid people at all. It is about your relationship with reality. It is about the gap between the world you believe you're living in and the world that actually exists. And that gap, that comfortable, reassuring, well-decorated gap, is where your greatest losses happen quietly, without announcement, often without you ever understanding why. Think about the last time something went catastrophically wrong in your life, a project that failed, a relationship that collapsed, a decision that cost you dearly. How many times, looking back, did you realize that you had seen the warning signs, but chosen not to take them seriously? You told yourself it would work out. You told yourself the person would change. You told yourself that surely people wouldn't act that irrationally, that destructively, that self-defeatingly. You gave the benefit of the doubt, not as an act of generosity, but as an act of self-protection from an uncomfortable truth. This is the 4th law operating in real time. Cipolla's framework identifies 4 types of people in the world. The intelligent person who acts in ways that benefit both themselves and others. The helpless person who acts in ways that harm themselves but benefit others. Think of the chronic people pleaser, the one who always gives and never receives. The bandit who harms others while benefiting themselves. The manipulator, the exploiter, the strategically cruel. And then there is the stupid person, the most dangerous category in Cipolla's entire taxonomy. The stupid person, in Cipolla's precise definition, is not someone with a low IQ. That is the part that shocks people. A stupid person, by this law, is someone who causes harm to others while gaining nothing, and often losing, in the process. They are not evil strategists. They are not calculating predators. They are something far more terrifying. They are unpredictable, self-sabotaging agents of disorder who operate without comprehensible logic. And because they operate without comprehensible logic, your intelligent brain cannot model them, cannot anticipate them, cannot protect you from them. You are wired to understand cause and effect. You are wired to assume that people, even bad ones, act from rational self-interest at some level. When someone does something that hurts you, your mind instinctively looks for their motive, their gain, the angle they were playing. And in that search for motive, you are already 5 steps behind reality. Because the stupid person had no angle, there was no strategy, there was simply chaos wearing a human face. If this idea has already begun to resonate with something you felt, but never had words for, something is about to open up inside you that cannot be closed again. Stay with this. What comes next will change the way you see almost every failure you have ever experienced. There is a kind of loneliness that comes from being a thoughtful person in a world that frequently rewards thoughtlessness. You felt it, that deep, quiet frustration when you realize that all your careful planning, all your good intentions, all your measured reasoning can be undone in an afternoon by someone who wasn't thinking at all. The person who speaks carelessly in a meeting and derails weeks of work. The official who makes a bureaucratic decision that crushes something that took years to build. The family member who, without malice but with stunning consistency, manages to introduce chaos into every gathering, every plan, every moment of peace you've carefully constructed. And here is what you told yourself each time. Surely they didn't mean to. Surely they'll see the consequences and adjust. Surely next time will be different. That surely is the fourth law at work in your psychology. It is the mind's desperate attempt to maintain a coherent picture of a world where intelligence eventually wins, where reason eventually prevails, where people eventually learn. Cipolla is telling you, with the gentleness of a surgeon and the honesty of a gravestone, that this belief, however comforting, has cost you more than you know. The philosopher Nassim Taleb talked about a similar blindness in his concept of the black swan, the event that seems impossible until it happens, and then, in retrospect, seems inevitable. Stupidity, in Cipolla's framework, is humanity's most common and least studied black swan. We build institutions, civilizations, and lives on the assumption that rational actors will behave rationally enough, often enough, to keep the whole structure standing. History is the long, painful record of what happens when we are wrong about that assumption. Think of Rome. Not Rome's enemies at the gate, Rome's internal deterioration, the slow accumulation of poor decisions, petty power struggles, short-sighted policies, the gradual erosion of the very qualities that had built the empire. Think of organizations you have watched decay, not because a competitor outsmarted them, but because the weight of accumulated irrational behavior finally became too heavy for any amount of brilliance to carry. Think of relationships, not the ones destroyed by malice, but by something smaller and more relentless, the consistent underestimation of how much damage a person who doesn't think about consequences can quietly cause. Here is where it gets practical. And this is the part where philosophy stops being beautiful and starts being useful. If you accept the fourth law, truly accept it, not just intellectually but in the lived texture of your decisions, it changes three things immediately. First, it changes how you assess risk. You stop asking only, what could go wrong through bad luck or bad strategy? And you start asking, and who in this situation is capable of causing harm without intending to, without benefiting from it, and without ever fully understanding what they've done? That question, uncomfortable as it is, will protect you in ways that risk matrices and probability calculations never will. It is not pessimism, it is precision. Second, it changes how you spend your energy. One of the most devastating traps intelligent people fall into is the project of trying to educate the ineducable, to reason with the unreasonable, to show consequences to those who are constitutionally unable to see them. You know this trap. You have lived inside it. You have spent hours, days, sometimes years of your life trying to convince someone to see what seems to you entirely obvious, and walked away each time exhausted, baffled, and somehow feeling like the failure was yours. The fourth law liberates you from that trap, not because people are hopeless, they are not, but because your energy is finite, your time is irreplaceable, and some battles, however righteous, will only drain you without ever changing the terrain. Third, and most profoundly, it changes how you see yourself, because the fourth law is not a law about other people. It never was. Cipolla's deepest, most subversive implication is this: we are all, in different moments and different contexts, capable of being the stupid person in someone else's story. We are all, at some point, the agent of causeless harm, the person who speaks without thinking, acts without considering, chooses without understanding the ripple of what we've set in motion. The law is not a weapon for looking down at fools. It is a mirror for looking honestly at the moments when the fool was us. There is a secret embedded in that mirror that very few people are willing to face, and it is this: self-awareness is not a permanent condition, it is a practice. A daily, sometimes hourly choice to ask yourself, is what I am about to do, say, or decide actually going to help, or am I about to become someone else's fourth law? The ancient Stoics had a concept they called prosoche, the constant, attentive watchfulness of one's own mind. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world, wrote to himself every morning about the potential for his own foolishness, not as self-flagellation, as inoculation. He understood, 2,000 years before Cipolla formalized it, that the damage done by the unexamined life is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is cumulative. And it is, for the most part, entirely preventable, if you are willing to look. This is the full weight of the fourth law. It is not just a warning about the chaos others can introduce into your life. It is an invitation, uncomfortable, necessary, ultimately liberating, to stop being surprised by human irrationality and start being strategic about it. To stop spending your finite energy trying to make the unpredictable predictable and start building your life on the solid ground of what you can actually control, your awareness, your choices, your response to the disorder that will inevitably arrive. The world does not owe you rational actors. History has never once guaranteed that the people around you would behave sensibly enough to protect what you've built. The fourth law is the acknowledgement of that fact, not as resignation, but as the beginning of genuine wisdom. You cannot stupid-proof the world. You can, however, stupid-proof your assumptions about it. And in the space between reality and your assumptions about it, that is precisely where your life either breaks or becomes extraordinary. The most dangerous thing in the world is not malice. It is the intelligent person who keeps expecting the world to make sense, keeps giving the benefit of the doubt, keeps being surprised, and never once considers that the law was always counting on exactly that. Now you know it exists. The question is whether you will do something with that knowledge, or whether, like most people, you will nod, agree, and go back to being surprised by Monday. If this video made you think about something you've been avoiding, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment. I genuinely want to know, in what area of your life has the fourth law been operating without your permission? And if you want to keep going deeper into ideas that most channels are afraid to touch, subscribe now. This is only the beginning of the conversation.